And each year, the town's required by Mass General Law to decide the apportionment of the tax bill amongst these various classes. And really, the law is designed to allow towns to shift the tax burden away from residential and open space and toward industrial and commercial. So if a town has a lot of industrial and commercial operations, they can shoulder a larger burden of the tax base than residential, because they are probably using the services more than the residential people, like, for example, sewage, water, et cetera. But in Wendell, we have so few commercial and no industrial, as far as I know, property. The town has always shied away from trying to penalize commercial activity. The town has always wanted to encourage commercial activity because it's so small here. And really, a lot of the townspeople depend on what little commercial activity we have. So we've always voted for a unified tax rate, which means that all the classes pay the same, instead of shifting the burden to the industrial. So I think what we would need would be a motion to adopt a unified tax rate for all classes of property in Wendell.
I will make that motion. Is there a second?
Sorry, it's muted. I second.
Great. And discussion? I actually just had a quick question. What would be classified as industrial? I know that there's been talk about the utilities that we have a little bit of, but I think you're right, that's only commercial. So I'm wondering what takes it up to industrial.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer. I'll check it out.
Okay.
I'll research it. I mean, there's sort of a gut understanding of it. It's a factory that's pumping out smoke and product. But I'm sure there's an actual definition, and I'll check it out.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, we're all set with that. I think that's it for this public hearing. So should we, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I so move.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that is adjourned. Very quick. Now officially we have 5
posted-
minutes.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes. We should probably wait.
5 minutes till the next meeting starts. So we were too efficient. We can talk more about music.
I can eat a few more bites of dinner.
So if anyone who came on recently is confused, we had a public hearing that started at 7, and now our regular meeting is starting at 7:10, and we already finished our public hearing on tax classification.
Is that ask
Totally.
if people got the emails that I sent about the possibility of Sarah Robertson having a role in our not to discuss it yet because they're not open on the meeting, but just wondering if you got it. Those couple of messages that I sent.
Yes.
Yep, I got it.
Okay. All right.
Mm.
Doug,
Mhm.
was that Sarah Robertson's interest in the PFAS? That your,
No,
the email
no,
was
has
about?
has nothing to do with that.
Okay,
And
Okay.
so now we're gonna call the regular select board meeting to order and we'll do the roll call. I am here, Laura Di Donato.
I'm here, Gillian Bedine.
I'm here, Dan Keller.
All right, thank you. And it's 7:10, if I haven't said that already. Are there any announcements? I see none. Next is our public comment period. Is there anybody who wants to make a public comment? I
Sort
see
of
none.
public comment. I just
Oh.
wanted to say, I only have limited time, so if I could request to be moved up in the agenda to whatever it is that I have to offer.
Sure, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Did you want to go now or you just,
Sure, I can do it. Yeah, it's just two things. Well, one is my report as the financial coordinator. I'm considering, and I discussed this with the FinCom, putting a warrant article on for the water at the school. We know that's in flux. I'm not sure how to frame it exactly yet, since we still don't know their response. I know the finance committee is very much in line with Jim Slavis's perspective on this. But I think we probably need to set something aside just in case. So I don't know, I guess that's a thing to consider. I don't know that we need to decide that right now, but that soon.
so this was a question I actually had, because we're not necessarily using ARPA. We would have to get a town meeting vote. How would that work if we needed to contract with somebody, as soon as possible on
Well,
doing the
I
procurement?
mean, frankly, my thinking is that this is best, the most appropriate thing for this particular thing is to put it on a warrant as a town meeting article, as opposed to just dumping it on ARPA. In part because I think, we have some strong perspectives that probably need to be aired, and that if the feeling in New Salem is to go around the idea of a new well and to go for this filter without pursuing a new well, I don't know that the FinCom would recommend it. I think we'd still put it on the warrant, but we might argue for people to fail it. So I mean, I'm becomes a little bit of a political social issue there.
Yeah.
So I just
Sorry, let me just finish. My main concern is if we have to get a town meeting vote, does that mean we cannot say to time bond, whatever, to go ahead and start procurement or design, that kind of thing? Do we have to wait for this town meeting vote?
That's a good question. There's still $17,000 or so left in the earmark. And New Salem had set aside 20,000, I think. So there is money there. But what the logistic of that, I'm not sure. Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's a good question. But we could certainly, it's not far away, the town meeting. So
Well,
that,
yeah, but I think I know that everybody wants to get moving as fast as possible. Okay, Dan, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, yeah, I support Doug's and Jim's opinion on it, that, as you all know, I guess I've said it before. But, I think drilling a new well is the best option at this point. It seems to me like there is actually enough money available in the various funds to go ahead and do that if we had agreement on it, which, as far as I know, we don't have at this point. But I think combination of the funds Doug mentioned and the reserve fund, which is always available, would be enough to drill a well. So that's still what I'm supporting.
Okay, and we do have this further down on the agenda, but what I guess we, as much as Doug, he won't be here later. I don't know if we
Doug,
want to have.
I'm just wondering, is there a motion that the finance committee would like the select board to make tonight, since it is on the agenda tonight, or Do you want to wait? We're having a meeting next week as well, a week from tonight.
No, I don't think we need it yet. We would love to hear more from New Salem, I think, before we decide on language. It's actually, to Lori's point, it's true that there is the money in ARPA, which the select board could authorize without a town meeting vote. So you hypothetically could do that if you had to act quickly or in order to ensure that Teagan bond would get paid, that sort of thing. So that's an open-ended thing.
The other thing
But as far
too
as a
that-
warrant article goes, that can wait until we decide, you know.
Go ahead, Gillian.
The other thing too is I'm hearing that there's some movement about trying to get some money for towns that are having to deal with this issue. And whether, you know, whether it's paid by ARPA or whether it's paid by town funds, does that make a difference in terms of how that support comes through? Whether to reimburse a town or to use those funds. We don't know, but I'm just thinking, that's part of my thinking process is we need to keep that in mind.
That's a definitely good thought, Gillian, to keep in mind. I suspect we'd be better off with the town meeting vote in that case because we know we could be reimbursed from those funds. Whereas ARPA, I don't know that we can use it and then get reimbursed. I don't know.
Right.
You know, so that is another thought. Yeah. Good thing to keep in mind.
Okay, so I think we'll talk about this more later in the meeting. Is there anything else, Doug, that you had from your?
Yeah, I wanted to bring the issue of a role for Sarah Robertson as a possibility of twofold things. And again, it's not something that needs to be decided. I think there's probably a meeting that we need to take place and maybe a decision that select board could make to designate some people or person to get together with her. And the twofold thing is, one is, I think she could be very useful as I was saying, like as a hybrid guide for the owls, so that people who aren't familiar with it, if they want to do a hybrid meeting, if she's available, which she's often available, they could just contact her and she could come to the meeting and be the AV person for their meeting. That would be great. I think that people would probably appreciate that, and they wouldn't have to screw around with it during their meeting. That's one role, and the other is sort of to get it off of my shoulder in some way is the decision about to do some research into what to buy for a more permanent screening thing for the hybrid meetings. You know, I think she presented the idea of a cart, which sounds like a good idea to me, but a little research into how big and, you know, what else do we need and and also to be then the person to kind of manage that, you know, so that there's someone, you know, to go to. Where is it? When is it available? Maybe keep track of when it's booked, things like that. Since she already is the Board of Health clerk, so she's already a formal clerk. There's other clerking money that could be used to pay her. So I'm suggesting that I've talked with her briefly about it, and she's interested in it and has the skills, I think, to do it. Oh, then the other piece is also her, and maybe if there's someone else, to be an in-house go-to for questions about how to use the 365 network. You know, like how to load a file, how to get your email set up, things like that. And she's pretty good at that stuff too. So, and she could be more than one person. That could be a little team. No, would probably be good. But it's definitely clear to me that I can't continue to carry that ball. I got the computers there. I'm still working with them and with Gillian too on the email things and Glenn as well. But I can't be responsible for it in a more global way.
It sounds like we need an IT person.
Well, sort of, but yeah, I think IT might be a little. I think this is more like a what do you call it? A user assistant. IT's kind of, it involves, you know, a lot more. What do you call it? You have a program, and it's you have a use for it. So it's it's a thing that you, it's- wow,
No.
what's the
Anyway.
word? IT is
Well,
too
Gillian
technical.
had her hand up. Unless Glenn has an easy answer for something.
So just
Struggling.
one thing I thought of is that, and I was just looking in our budget, but we had some money under IT.
Mhm.
Yes, maybe
And
if you don't mind me interrupting, Gillian,
Sure.
I think it was good to have the topic introduced by Doug as part of his report, but then to get into it more in terms of talking about how it might, deliberating about it, we could put it on next week's agenda.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's kind of my intention,
Thanks.
is to introduce the idea and think more about it. Yep, good point.
Okay, and you're gonna be at the meeting next week, Doug?
Yeah, I think I can be next week.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? I get the same situation next week. I'm playing here again at the same time. So I would have the same situation. I could be available between 7 and 7:30. But oddly,
Okay, so, and is this something that you feel needs to happen soon, or can we put it off to a future meeting?
I don't think it has to happen soon, but I think well, like I said, I think if we were interested in doing this somehow, to creating a little team of people to assist with the rollout of this, that would be something to maybe have another separate meeting about, and have Sarah there and anybody else who might be interested in participating in that. And then they could get
Yeah,
a little
that's a good
extra
idea.
training from Entree. No, I discussed it with Pat briefly today. He thought that was a good idea. There often is a liaison type person who's, can act as an assistant to the user interfaces.
And so would that be, so having that meeting, maybe you could also get more specifics on what payment would be and how that would work? And would you want to do that then before we bring it back to the select board and possibly make it official?
Maybe we could get a volunteer from the select board to participate.
Well, you can't
I
tell,
don't
but I'm
mind.
looking at Gillian.
She's already involved, so maybe it should be.
All right. I don't mind having that conversation with Doug
Okay.
and
And
Yeah.
Sarah, maybe, and if there's
Right.
anybody else we think of who might be interested in that.
I'd like to include Glenn in it too, if
Sure.
Glenn is available.
Mhm.
But we can kind of go from
Excellent.
there.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
so
that'd be
that sounds great. So whenever you can get that together and then let us know, we can bring
Yeah.
it back to the select
Okay,
board.
we'll try to get the 4 of us or more if somebody else comes along who's interested.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
okay, that's good. That's good.
All right, anything else, Doug?
Nope.
Okay.
Have fun playing
So-
music.
Thank you. See you later.
Yes. Yeah. All right, so we moved Doug up. We had gone through public comment and I don't think we needed any select board response. So we can take a
Well, I'll
look at
just
the meeting.
say
Oh.
about the select board statements, that could also be a time if you all just have updates, if you've been to committees or things, those don't have to go under topics not reasonably anticipated. Just to make it clear, I think that the select board statements is supposed to be kind of an open updates kind of time as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Good.
All
Like,
right.
did you
Are
see
there-
that the Veterans Memorial is looking quite spiffy? The work that's happening there.
I did not see the newest work, I guess. That's good though.
Yep.
Are there any other updates from select board members? Now I'm trying to think if I have any.
The only other thing I can think of is that Christine Hurd has communicated with Glenn and myself about doing the newsletter. I'm very excited. So she's gonna compile, people will submit articles to Christine Hurd and she will compile it and then send it to me for formatting and we'll get it out. And we've got a schedule and stuff, so it feels really nice. Like I feel like we're getting sort
Excellent.
of everything in place.
That's great, Diane. Thank you
Good.
for that.
Yep.
Excellent. It'd be great to see it again.
Yeah, and I think it's really helpful to have that volunteer who can take on that piece. That
Yes.
Nice.
All right. So if that's it for select board statements, we can look at the meeting and warrant schedule, which I don't have it.
I have it in front
Okay.
of me. So tonight we need to sign warrants, or tomorrow morning.
Yep.
So I'll either do it tonight, depending on how late this goes, or first thing tomorrow morning before 8 o'clock.
I'll probably do it tomorrow afternoon.
I'll go in sometime in the morning. Not sure exactly when at this point.
So Lori, well, when you all go in to sign the warrant, there are also a few appointments there for you, as well as the letter to the Gate Lane homeowners. So Lori, since you'll be the last one, that's all laid out with instructions about how to mail that certified and return receipt requested. With all, it's all the postage is all set. You'll just have to kind of follow the instructions and pop it in the mail if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. And then we'll have another select board meeting next week, and then we'll be off schedule with the warrant for I'm not sure how long, but okay, so we've on the report section, and we've heard from Doug, and I see Phil is here. Phil, do you have any updates from the project coordinator?
Sure. Nothing major. I'll just run through my list. If there's any questions, just throw them at me. Things are all moving along as you might expect. We did talk briefly last meeting about the intersection at Locks Village Road and Lock Hill, and I'm looking into that. I've tried to contact whoever does that at FERCog, but I'm still waiting to hear some more information on that. The only thing I can come up with is looking at an intersection that's more a T intersection and go down Lock Village Road, maybe 100, 150 feet, and make a different turn onto Lock Hill Road. It'll just eliminate that speedway through the intersection that's been causing so much angst over the years. So we'll see. That's going to have to be engineered. We'll have to. It's not going to happen overnight, but maybe some plans in the works by spring. The people that have offered the earmark for the Wendell landfill, the capping, I have not had any success getting them to confirm that that's actually in place. So I'm still working on trying to get them to commit to when the money might be available. We had been told that we had a $75,000 earmark to cap the landfill. So as soon as that's confirmed, I'm looking at hiring a contractor to go in and do the bulk of the clearing on the slope of the landfill, and that'll get us started with that whole project. That's another one. It's going to be like a year and a half in the making. $75,000 is going to go a long way to make that happen, though. The library, we got gutters put up this week. I don't know how much I've talked about the mishap of how that was designed for the water, or the outside water around the building, but the water was running right into the old foundation, and the gutters, there were no gutters, and the drainage that was installed was not near enough the building to catch the water off the roof. So the water was actually running right down beside the foundation and into to some level into the cellar. So it's been a several step process. We've got the gutters up. We're going to put some solid piping in the ground, carry the water away. That should be a fairly inexpensive prospect. I'm looking at having someone do it manually, just a few pipes around the edge to carry the water away from where it runs back to the building, and then paint the cellar. Town barn roof is moving forward. I've had more contact with the contractor. He's getting the paperwork in place and the bid bond, that kind of thing. It was new to them, so they're working out the details. Police station is we're just still waiting for that garage door and the heat, the mini splits. But the construction's basically done. The police are actually doing a lot of wiring and putting the security systems in. The internet's hooked up now. We did get internet hooked up this week at the Rats also. We felt like it was going to be useful for them there. They do a lot of things over the internet with contacting, the trucking companies and all that other thing and supplies for the rats. So that's something that Ray or whoever's in that position afterwards can do while they're actually at work, as opposed to doing that during their off times. The big project, Mormon Hollow, is sitting there waiting. The culvert is supposedly, the actual construction of the culvert is on schedule, we're told, and it should be delivered by 9/15, which is just like 2 weeks away. So it is somewhat on schedule. That could potentially see the road or the roadway built back up by beginning of November. And that was the big goal, was to make sure that the farm is open and available with the roadway, at least usable, prior to Thanksgiving. Kentfield Road's moving along. It's like I say, if there's any questions, these things are all just carrying along at their own pace.
Bill, it sounds fantastic.
Sounds so
What
great.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Thank
It's,
you.
nice to see things getting done.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's great.
And the brush
Oh.
mowers all purchased and insured and on the road, right?
The brush tractor is insured. We were not able to get the registration because there's a special form that was supposed to come with the tractor that they did not get from the manufacturer. But our insurance agent assured me that we are insured and they can drive it on the road. All it's missing is actually the plate. And as long as they're not out driving highways, no one's going to bother them with the plate. The vehicle is insured and it's being used. So that's good.
Good.
And we have a new employee starting next week at with the highway. As you all know, Rich is retiring, and Al Frost has had surgery, so he's just coming back online next week as well. He had his second, well, I won't get into details, but he's going to be back in shape and back to work next week, hopefully, as well. So the crew, which has been down quite a bit this summer, is going to be up to full strength again, beginning in the next week or two. So that's good news.
That is
Who's our
good.
new employee?
The new employee is, it's not making Warwick very happy, but we've taken the second of their road crew to work for Wendell. And he's a very experienced gentleman. He's working in Warwick for quite a long time. And he's happy to come. We're happy to have him. He seems like he's gonna be a real good fit. Does a lot of things like this crew does good maintenance, and seems like a solid employee for the town.
Great.
Good. Awesome.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks so
Okay.
much, Phil.
All right, everything's up and running.
Great.
All right. And nobody has questions for Phil? All right. So let's move on to the town coordinator update report.
Okay, two things come to mind, and then if you all have any questions, but I got to go to Mahar Regional for the tour that Michelle Tanto Donato, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, and Ian Spencer, who's their facilities manager, gave, and I was the only person on the tour, so I had a personal tour, and it was like an hour, they gave me an hour of their time, and they showed me everything, and the facilities manager there, boy, he's really seems on top of everything, so I'm not, experienced in these matters, but it's just when someone inspires confidence, I just wanted to share that back with you all, that Mahara Regional seems to be being run very well from a facilities perspective. And actually what was neat was how all the stuff they were doing with the facilities seemed connected with what they were trying to do with student outcomes and the educational experience. So that was really cool. And I appreciated them for their time. This afternoon.
And
oh,
Glenn, I think that's a newer facilities maintenance person.
yeah, he
Like
is
maybe he's been there
newer.
about a year. Yeah.
Yeah,
Couple of
maybe
years,
a
I
year
think
and a
now.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah, and taking a fresh look at everything, and so very, very interesting stuff. And so this afternoon, I was delegated to help with the installation of the firewall at the town offices, and we spent a lot of time trying to trace cords around the building, and there is some, I'm not sure I'll be able to fully explain it, but there is something where there's a cord, an internet cord that's running from the machine room up and then over kind of to the meeting room, and then seems to be headed towards the select board's office somehow. So it didn't go, like there's something that's connecting the internet to the main connection point, which is in the closet of the tax collector's office. But he suspected there's some other place where there's some kind of connecting point. So I've written to Jim about it. Gillian wrote back with the question about what it might possibly be, but if anyone has any intel on the inner workings of the town office's internet cords, please let us know.
Well, I think Jim's the person to talk to, and
Yeah.
the facilities room, including the furnace and the water pump, et cetera, are all monitored online to some central organizational point. And Jim is aware of all that. And it's basically to keep track of all those independent systems. So they're all connected, but I think Jim's the expert on how they're connected.
Gillian?
And I'm not sure, Glenn, if you saw Jim's response.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
He did respond with, he thinks he knows what it might be. And it might be related to the Johnson control system, which I think is what Dan is referring to. And that there's only one network switch located in the collector's closet, but he needs to come do a physical look at it. And I'm wondering if maybe we can ask if he's around, if he can come when Patrick's crew is there the next time.
Yeah,
That
we
might be
can
very
try
helpful.
to schedule Jim to be there when they
Yeah.
come. Yeah. And we also learned that we will need, and Doug has shared some of this info with me, but I'm going to need to be able to, or the Entree team will need to be able to access people's computers at the town offices in order to, when they install the firewall, it's going to require a change in settings for people to use the printer on all the different computers and laptops in the offices. So as well, that's coming along.
Thank you. Probably took most of your day.
It took, I was hoping to get to some other things today, but the life of a town coordinator, you never know what's coming down the pike.
So,
Definitely.
Lori, I have a question if it's appropriate. I heard Doug talking about the 360 or whatever that is, and I'm not up to speed at all on all the new computer options. I understand there's a new internet system in the works, and I know we have a new telephone system. Is there going to be some kind of a public, some kind of forum so we can learn about these things and get some information?
It could be, I think there
Good
probably should
question.
be. I
Do you
think
want
that
me
was
to
built
jump?
in.
Do you want me
Oh.
to jump in? I was in a phone call yesterday about this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So Entree is prepping a letter to go out to everyone about the changes and sort of next steps and how email will be ported from Zoho to this new system and how you log in and who to contact if you have questions. So there will be some information coming out about all of that soon.
So it's basically a public server that we can access from various points and then access into other information sites that the town
Yes.
means. Yep. Great.
And it's going to take some figuring out because our system is not set up that way right now. So it'll take, I think we'll need a little patience.
Yep.
But they seem equipped to get us all straightened out.
Great.
okay. Any other questions on any of that? All right, so I think we can move on to the next thing, which is our consent agenda. I can't remember now. Should I read them all out? Glenn?
I could read them for you if you want. So we will be looking for a motion for the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes from August 3, 4, 17, and 24. Approving a rental request from the Chorus and the Energy Committee to appoint Georgie, is that how you pronounce it?
Georgie,
Georgie to the Energy Committee, and approval of the statement of commitment. And any of those items, if anyone wants to take them out of the consent agenda, they may.
all right, and then we can also have discussion
Yep, can have
on any of them.
discussion.
And
Yep.
I had a question actually, because I wasn't sure if August. I couldn't find minutes for August, one of the dates. I'm thinking
Okay.
it was the 4th, and I was wondering if it actually might. I don't remember there being a meeting.
There
August 4th.
was, I think August 4th might have been our special meeting where we voted on the Citizen of the Year. And we had
Oh, yes, okay,
yeah, we had an executive session as well.
all right, all right. So maybe you sent those out a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a little while ago.
I just want to
Okay.
say you can't take that award back if you can't find the minutes, so.
Okay, so that's good. Now I've had my memory. I think I remember reading those. And I can give information on the Chorus and the Energy Committee, even though I have not put in the forms yet, which I promised to, but the Chorus, as usual, wants to use the town hall on Monday evenings for this fall season, starting September 12th, I believe, and probably ending in December. And the Council on Aging sponsors that. And then the Energy Committee is just doing a one-time event on the solstice in September. Should really know. A Thursday night in September, just for an event, like information session and learning about what the Energy Committee is doing, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And you're on mute.
If we could just jump back to the minutes for a second. I had this
Sure.
very minor typo that I think probably Glenn would like to correct, which is on August 17th minutes under section IX, which would be 9, I believe. Under discussion, we have a GJW making comments.
Okay.
And that's in there a couple of times. So
Okay, put in my
I'm
own
not
wrong
sure that's
initials.
the right initials. And
Nope.
just as a footnote, I would just like to say, I don't mind minutes written up with first names of people rather
Okay.
than initials. It seems a little easier to read to me, but that's just my own personal opinion. And then if there are 2 Dans, you can add the second initial or whatever. But
Yeah.
I would be fine with that as well. And you reminded me, there was another thing I noticed on one of the minutes, which now I'll have to remember. It was the short, I think it was the one with New Salem. Basically,
Did
the
I-
very end of it.
I failed to put the closing time and who made the
Exactly,
motions
yeah.
and all that. I can fix
Yes.
that too. Okay.
Okay,
yeah, and thanks for all your attention to detail, Glenn. It's really fabulous. You're doing great.
yes, we're very sorry that you have to do it. We haven't been able to find someone else yet.
I know it's on the agenda, but my new policy is whenever there are outstanding minutes, that's the only thing I'm working on except for putting out fires. So if there are any fires, I put them out, then I'm back to the minutes because I'm not getting into this backlog thing again.
Good.
All right.
Good idea.
All right, any other discussion on this consent agenda items? All right, so, oh, go ahead,
Actually,
Gillian.
Lori, the
Yeah.
only, I'm just double checking that the There was one town hall request, but that's not in the consent agenda, correct?
There's a town hall request that's coming later under items not anticipated.
Okay, all right.
So I think we still need a
So,
motion in a second. on
Yeah,
this one.
so I can make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 All right, excellent. Okay, so we can move on to new business. The first one is special permitting process for parking on the town common. Unless there's something new that you have, Glenn, I think this might have been moved here after Kathy's request.
Yep.
I'm not sure we have any. I'm not sure what we'll need to do to make this happen. But it might need to be outside of the select board meeting.
I have to be
we-
honest, I'm not really totally sure what she was requesting. What is the special permitting process that she's asking for?
Go ahead, Gillian.
I think what her request is she recognizes that just doing that during town meeting opened up some doors for people to say it's okay to park there. And she's wanting to be really clear that there's a process to request to be able to park that way,
Right.
not for it just to be happening.
Yeah.
And so that if we had some, just like we have a town hall rental request, that we have some kind of process where we say, you're having an event, you want to request to park on the common. These are the things you need to consider. This is what you need to fill out. These are the rules you need to follow. And then we'll give you a piece of paper saying you have a permit to park on the town common.
Right.
So it's like we
Mhm.
need to set up which I actually think we do need something to say a little more official for a request to use the space. I don't think we can really deny people from using the common, but we can put some guidelines around it so we don't have people using it at the same time, just the logistics of it all and keeping it healthy and safe. So we
Right,
probably
so-
need somebody to come up with a template.
Yeah, so this would be then an expansion of what this is talking about, is sort of permitting for just any town common use, and then permanent, and part of that would be if they want to park. Any parking on the town common would be sort
That
of a
sounds like a good idea.
Dan Leahy.
Yeah, just it's tangentially related to open space. I saw this item on the agenda tonight, so I just wanted to share just a few observations and comments. I thought that it was probably triggered by the parking that took place at Old Home Day on the Commons. I was surprised to see that many vehicles on the Common that day. And right now, we do have de facto parking on the Common and the cemetery. And there is a parking issue. I think it doesn't obviously need to be discussed, in any depth tonight. But it is something to think about for the future, because when the library has events now and they have overflow parking, people tend to park along the cemetery, and the parking starts by the free box, and then it proceeds north, and sometimes on both sides, on the cemetery side and the common side. So you can see that those trees are, some of the vegetation, the turf is gone, and the trees are suffering from compaction in that area. And I just caution about allowing vehicles to park on the common. You can see throughout New England how commons have suffered greatly by the motor vehicle. Some have been partially paved over. I'm not sure that we've done that in Wendell. I mean, I see there's like a little bump in to the common across from the senior center I'm wondering if we used part of the common at one point there. But there's been a slow erosion of town commons across New England, and I'd hate to see our commons suffer the same. Just through the open space plan, I've kind of paid attention really to get photographs of people that are using the common. And I see obviously Old Home Day, our town meeting, yoga, frisbee, tai chi, the chorus, stargazing, comet watching, drummers and others are out there using that space. And it's really one of the few open spaces in Wendell that is really accessible to folks. So I think we really need to cherish that common and not turn it into a de facto parking area. So with that said, so how do you deal with it? Well, I do want to also say to the select board, and basically you're going to probably get to the water issue later. I do not envy your position because you have to deal with a lot of complex issues at a rapid rate. It seems like it's nonstop for my minor observation of these agendas. And they're serious matters for the community. So I appreciate your efforts, but sometimes I think we, as a municipality, because we're so small and we don't have a planning and development department, we don't get to look at the, say in this instance, the parking need, some analysis, and then come up with a plan that will address it that is suitable to protect the town common and the character of the center of town. So I just kind of put it on the radar screen. And I know that there's the Conway School of Landscape Design in Conway, Massachusetts, and they do from time to time community projects. And there is a fee associated with that, but I'm thinking, like the library, the Friends of the Meeting House, the new owners of the Meeting House, and the town might want to collaborate on a community project which addresses our parking in the center of town. Because that's where we gather, but we don't want to gather in such a way that we're damaging, our what we cherish.
Yeah.
Gillian?
The other use that I've noticed that is still continuing is sometimes parking places are taken up by people who are using the internet access. So that sometimes adds to the parking need, if people are coming for a program at the senior center or, at the library, some of those spots are being taken up by people who are parked for internet access. So it's just sort of another use of space that it does seem like we should put some thought into it. And Dan, I do think that Kathy's request for a special permitting process was for protection of the town common. Not necessarily to allow more of it, but to make sure that we're being thoughtful and cautious about how much that happens.
Great.
Dan Keller?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Dan Leahy, for all those observations. They all sound correct to me and worth thinking a lot about it. And maybe I would suggest creation of a parking in the town center committee and to really look at it and come up with some solutions. One solution is taxing people up there from other parking spots, like at the Rats. So we could develop parking places along the way. Maybe there is a way to develop a bigger parking area near the actual common that isn't on the common. But I would suggest another committee with representatives from open space, highway department, library, select board,
Meeting house.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Gillian?
It does also make me think there's been some grants recently that have come out around state grants that have come out around use of space and public space, like using not quite for this topic, but we should keep an eye out for planning of turning parking lots, sort almost the opposite, like turning parking lots or other spaces like that into community spaces, or make it accessible and safe for people to use for community events and things like that. But I'm wondering if there might be something that we could find that would help pay for something like a study, a plan, a process.
Yeah.
We need a grant writer.
So what do we think the next step should be here? Do we want to start reaching out to people and see if they want to join a committee? Or does anybody want to look into grants? Or we could at the very least, if somebody wants to come up with some process for renting the common or using the common, is sort of the very, very minimal step we could start on too.
I wonder if for protection purposes that we could start with, you have to ask for a special permit with
Yeah.
approval from the select board in order to park on the common.
Right.
Mhm.
And then, but also have in mind that we want to go further in terms of looking at it more closely and making a better plan.
Yeah, I think that's sort of what Kathy was suggesting, actually. It was to really look at it closely. So a special permit would be fine, a fine way to do that. The case by case
Would you-
basis.
And would you be looking at ticketing, having the police ticket people or enforcement?
And so to clarify, this is, I know some of this conversation is including sort of just the edges where people actually park quite a bit, you know, like side of, you know, across from the cemetery and cemetery. Which I'm sort of thinking, although that is something that we should look at in the future, that might not be included in this. This is more of what happened at Old Home Day, driving
Right.
onto the whole grassy area. And unfortunately, I'm not sure what we have as for enforcement, other than there was one time where we had the police kick someone off. So we can do that. So I'm trying to think if we can find some kind of a template, and maybe talking with Kathy Becker would be at one place to start. I'll take that on. Kathy and I had worked on the town hall rental part with the kitchen, so it could sort of, you know, be a start jumping off point. All right, any other discussion on that?
Lori, I
Oh,
wish,
sorry, Dan, go ahead.
that's okay. I'll make a note that the next time we meet, and we're dealing with this, we're developing a 7-year action plan for the open space plan, open space and recreation plan. I'll bring this matter up and see if the committee wants to include that as one of the items that needs attention. Right, we take it, I think if we just, New Englanders take it for their commons for grant, they take their town commons for granted, right? It's a backdrop, it's a focal point, but it's just something we see and we kind of take for granted. We love it, but it's valuable and needs attention and care. you know, especially based on some of the history of the loss of and degradation of commons throughout New England. It seems like the automobile has won in many communities across New England, sadly. So based on all those other uses that are happening on our common in this open space where people feel safe, maybe the committee will want to put it in, and that will give us a placeholder amongst a lot of different competing priorities. So I just want to say that I'll bring that up to the committee.
Great.
Good.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dan.
Dan.
Sure.
Okay, I think we can move on and discuss the recording secretary issue. How to find one.
Yeah,
Is there
I
a
just started,
specific-
yeah,
Yeah.
I started thinking about this more, realizing how much time Glenn's having to spend on writing minutes for the
Yeah.
meetings when we really hired him to do other tasks other
Right.
than writing minutes. And I feel like we need to do another push to find a recording secretary. What was interesting in some of the notes that Glenn shared from other towns, it sounded like there was one town that the person writes the minutes, but they don't attend the meeting because it's recorded and there's a videotape of it. They just take that, they can do it whenever. They don't have to attend the meeting. And I thought, oh, would that make it more enticing for somebody
Yeah,
if
good
they
point.
just took the recording? Like, would Sarah Robertson be interested if she didn't have to attend the meeting, but just took the recording and could do it at a time that worked for her?
I'm not sure.
Something
I'll
for us
say-
to consider.
Can just say that that's a lot of what I end up doing is relying on the recording, because when I, especially for the parts where I'm participating in the conversation like now, it's too hard to multitask. So I do have to go back to the recording to work.
Yeah, I think it's really not good that Glenn is having to do this. It's really difficult for an individual to do both things at the same time, and I'm doing what I can to find somebody to do it. But beating the bushes to try to find somebody else. That's, I think, the name of the game.
Did we advertise in the paper, like the Montague Reporter at the
I
beginning?
don't think so.
Is that something that we could try?
Good idea. Yeah.
I think we put it on the town listserv, and maybe early on it went out like in the Athol paper or something, but I'm not sure.
I think the
But I'm
Montague
think-
Reporter is pretty relatively inexpensive and reaches a lot of potentially good people. So that would be a good idea. But Gillian, I'm not sure it's illegal for somebody to not be at the meeting and write the minutes from a recording. You know, it should be okay, but I'm not sure it is. So it's worth checking into.
Mhm.
I know I know I've done it in Greenfield,
Okay.
but I don't know if anybody cared about whether it was legal or not.
That's just a question.
I wonder what agency or people would we check with to find out if that was acceptable?
Town council.
Town council.
Or just maybe the open meeting. I mean, are you thinking it would be an open meeting law thing, Dan?
No, not so much, but a COG should be able to help with it. But in lieu of COG, you have to make a call to Dineski. He should be able to answer that very quickly.
Mhm.
So I can write to Bob Dean, and if he doesn't know, then I can write to Dineski.
I
Or
bet
can-
Bob Dean knows. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Bob Dean would know. Thanks for thinking of that, Glenn.
And then Glenn, do you want to see if there's a record of an ad for the position? And if
Sure.
not, we could create one.
Probably changed, the details have changed.
But we did share
Um,
something in the last newsletter. Actually, we have something from the last newsletter, so we could use that as a jumping off point. And then just adjust it if we want to say something about attendance not if we're able to say attendance not mandatory,
Right.
Yeah.
can do from recording or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that also makes it so that people from far away can do it. And we
Yeah.
don't need them to be, right?
Somebody in China could do it. That'd be
Yeah.
fun.
Keep,
It's when brother recommended that we put it on Upwork, which is one of these websites where people go and auction off office tasks.
Oh,
All right.
wow.
ah,
Welcome to the new
all,
age.
all the remote workers.
Wow.
I mean, I think if you that way, like there's a whole industry of people who are virtual executive assistant type people or virtual assistants, I guess, who have their spreading the word about these kinds of opportunities. But I don't think that the pays well, it might be maybe for Upwork, but I mean, you've compared to our neighbors, the pay isn't really compensatory. It's really Warwick went up to 18, and that was among the lowest of the people who were, well, they had different ways of organizing the compensation. Some did it by the meeting, and some did it part of the coordinator's job, and some of them did it hourly. The hourly rates tended to be higher than ours. don't know if
yeah, I
that's
think we might
something-
want to go back to the salary idea because
Yeah,
it's definitely a higher, I mean, if you're efficient, then you're getting a good hourly rate and you don't have to keep track of your hours.
Mhm.
So I guess
Yeah.
that would require, oh, Carolyn is here. No, I know that would take another vote or something, right, to change that. And I don't know how other people feel about it, but
All you have to do is decide and just let me know. And as long as it changes on the first of a month, I don't care.
okay.
What about the rate, the pay rate? Is that something that we're still trying to keep equivalent to other positions?
Is that a
If it's
question?
an hourly, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Kim.
I was just gonna, if it's an hourly, it's what you've already set for the clerk rate. If you're gonna set a salary fee, as long as you're within the budget for the year, you are the rate setters, so you can set it at anything.
Okay. So that might be another reason for us to go back to the salaried position.
Yeah, does anybody else have a opinion that like the idea of not, or don't like the idea of going back to the salary position?
A salary sounds good to me.
Yeah, and I feel like we need to do whatever we can to make it so we can find somebody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you don't have to be at the meeting, you can spend even fewer hours on it because you can speed up the meetings when on the recording.
I have done
Oh,
that.
man, super speedy.
You all talk very quickly.
Okay,
line do
so
What line do we have that? I'm sorry. What line do we have that position under?
it might be under select board clerk. There's an hourly, actually, no, that changed.
Oh, there it is. There's shared clerk, but that's not that one, right?
That's right.
There's salaries and wages department assistant. This is where it always gets confusing. I don't know which one it is. Carolyn, do you know which one it is?
You're on mute, Carolyn.
Just give me a 1 second and let me look. So it's the
Okay.
one that's under, let's see, select board salary.
I think we might have doubled
I-
the select board hourly.
Yeah, I
budget.
think it falls under the select board clerk hourly, both positions.
Yeah, so it looks like, because we doubled it 20 in the last fiscal year.
So
So we
I
have
see,
1740 for the year, looks like.
how much?
Well, actually, half of 3,500.
Okay, so it's the line 5120 that is 3,500.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
okay. And it's half of that. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, basically, I mean,
Okay,
it can be, if, to be spent on those two positions, however you see fit.
and the shared clerk is the Board of Health? No, not even.
I'm
It's
not sure
energy and
what
open
she does.
space. Energy, open space. I think that's it right now, because she didn't want the FinCom. That's something we
Okay.
could take a look at.
I think she
Although we
sent
don't-
me an email saying she's now doing the planning board as part of the shared clerk.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, I
have
think that
the
did
email
happen.
somewhere.
Oh, I didn't. So does that mean the planning board doesn't have it in their budget anymore?
Well, I think they have a budget for it, but I don't know that it's being used for that, because the planning board does have a clerk line.
Yeah. Maybe we should talk to Doug or check in with Doug on that, just to clarify.
Okay,
So do you want to get all these details together, Gillian, and you and Glenn can work out this advertisement specifics?
sure. We can send a draft to you.
Oh,
Dan,
and
just with
yeah,
a thumbs up to send out, or we can look at it at our next meeting.
and we could just tell Carolyn right now that we're going to change it to salary. We're all agreed on that.
And if we
And
find
we-
somebody and hire them, it'll be the first of a month.
Right.
That's the starting date.
Just take a vote for your minutes, please.
Okay. I'll move that we change the recording secretary position, the select board recording secretary position, to be a salary position.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I,
Aye.
Okay, and so we're just gonna do the Montague reporter and maybe we can put it back on the list. Did we want to do anything additional, like the things that Glenn was talking about that's widespread? Had you mentioned Craigslist too at some point, Glenn?
Yeah, I think that's the place to start, is not Upwork, which has its own complications and issues, but yeah, the West, I can just look for where people are posting jobs in Western Mass. I think Craigslist, there might be another one as well.
But maybe Glenn and I could work on that too. Glenn, when we talk about, and then we could come back with
Yeah.
a proposal on a list of where we're gonna stick it.
Okay.
Sure.
And maybe even the UMass job board, GCC job board.
I did send it to Ralph C. Mahar. I sent to the guidance counselor there at one point.
Thank
Never heard
you.
back.
Okay,
All right, are we all set with that?
yeah, thank you.
We can move on to Swift River Water, which is a tricky one. We did hear from Jim in the since the last discussion. I think there's a lot of different issues that we'll probably need to figure out. it does seem that we all have some kind of an agreement that we like the idea of trying to drill a new well. Or,
Just
I mean,
curious
Gillian, you
if
can,
Yeah,
Sorry,
I was just
Glenn?
wondering, I was just wondering if Gillian had had a chance to watch the meeting, or I guess you read the minutes, so.
Yeah, I looked at the minutes, but I didn't watch the meeting. The one thing I have been thinking about is not knowing what DEP, like what decision they'll accept. And looking, if I remember correctly, looking at the timeline estimates, they all looked similar in terms of like a treatment system and a replacement well. The timeline looked kind of similar in terms of the job to get done. But the treatment system, I wonder if they're going to look at it as something that is, they feel more certain about getting an end result. What I'm less comfortable with is long-term, like what other things are going to pop into that well if it's degrading and having issues. So, but is this going to be one of these things where we're pressured to put the filtration system in but then also need to make plans to do a new well, like not a one choice fix, but a stopgap fix and then a permanent fix. That's kind of what I've started thinking about is, I mean, I will be clear, I live many days in that building and question whether I'm going to drink that water or not drink that water, or, you know, shoot, did I bring my water? Or do I need to walk down and go get filtered water or water from someplace else? But it's not, I mean, we've had ongoing issues with it in terms of salt and other things as well. And I just feel like long-term, I don't know that the filter is going to be the right fix. As well as the cost of it long-term. But we do have money to support doing that at the moment. Do we do it, get it fixed, and not argue with New Salem or DEP, but say, in addition, we want to also look at putting in a new well? That's my thoughts.
I know Dan probably has thoughts on that. Did you? I mean, I could say some things too, unless you want to say something, Dan.
Well, I think I've said pretty much everything I need to say. It seems to me the best thing to do is to try to get it right in the first place. And that means drilling a new well. But there are a lot of other considerations. And I think we're hearing them coming in from all sides. So people can make up their own minds. But I'm still pretty convinced that a lot of the problems that well has been facing over the last 20 years come from a leak in that casement. And now we had video to prove it. So I would say, give it a shot. Try for a new well. And God forbid it turns out that we run into the same problems, then we have to go for something else. But that's my thought at the moment.
So, thanks, Dan. One of my concerns is still being a little uncertain if there really is a site that's going to work, and spending time sort of doing procurement. And I guess I'm a little unclear on how much we have to commit to this whole process and go through a bunch of time consuming things before we even know whether there's even a site that's gonna work. So that's one of my concerns. And I guess I sort of tried to get to that at the last meeting, but I don't know if I don't know if anyone else understood better than I, if that seemed possible to sort of prioritize just making sure we have a site before we do anything else and making that sort of streamlined.
So almost
and then-
doing like site exploration in order to determine what the choice set is before a decision is made. That kind
Yeah,
of what
before
your
we
idea
commit-
is? Yeah, do some
Before we
preliminary.
commit to like procurement on a whole well design, and I don't know, it just seems, I probably don't understand the process well enough to know how you can pull it out. But and then of course my other concern is what happens if New Salem doesn't agree? If we just can't get them to change their minds, how has this ever been an issue in the past, and how would it be dealt with?
Good question.
And they're in a tricky spot right now with their select board. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of unknowns.
Right.
I mean, I guess we could both have set even town meetings that are as soon as we can have them, and have this be the only thing and put both the options on the warrant. You know, we've tried to do that with tricky situations in the past. And that could
But if
decide it.
Wendell votes one thing and New Salem votes the other, like,
It would be like the school budget. You have to have both towns. You'd have to make the article such that there would be a default, you know, something where, like with the budgets, all the towns have to agree, or it's defaults. How does it work, Dan? If there's some kind of a default lowest budget or something, or do they just have to keep coming up with new budgets and find one that
No,
the town will
no,
vote
you're
on?
right. You're right. Finally, when the deadline ends, you have to go with the lower budget. That's the agreement. Yeah. But in this particular situation, there's no clear definition of how to proceed. So my suggestion would be that the Wendell board come up with its own position and make it clear what the Wendell board would like to do, and then try to work with the New Salem board to come up with a mutually agreeable solution. But I think first the Wendell board has to agree on what it thinks might be the best thing to do at this point.
Just scanning the presentation, I want to get a feel for what the costs are just to.
It seemed to me that the three options that were presented by Ty and Bond basically had all the same cost. It was around $100,000 for each one, give or take. So the money is, it's a Las Vegas type situation where each one is equally viable.
Yeah, but the trick is that you can put in 50,000 into the well and then learn that it's not going to work, and then you have to go back and do 100,000 on the testing system. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What's the least we could spend
yeah.
to make sure, we're still on track. So it looks like just the test well is 30,000. Although
And-
then there's some site plans and such. Maybe it's more like 40,000. There's sort of a phase one and a phase two.
Lori, as to your question about the site of the well, I think I think we've got conflicting information about that, because initially when we started looking at this many years ago, there was a question about, is there a possible site for a new well? But on the recent examination by Ty and Bond, I believe they have said that there is a site for a new well on the property.
I haven't seen them designate that.
It hasn't
I
been
know, I
designated.
asked the question and they made it sound like they thought there were possibilities.
Mhm.
Right.
Although there was a lot of talk about, DCR land and, possibly going off to a neighboring property.
Right, and actually that was the option that was suggested the last time we went around on this years ago. And it turned out that the neighboring property owner was willing to give a variance to let us include part of his property as an area that would never be disturbed by a written agreement. That was the indication from the abutter. So I'm not quite sure if there is a problem with the siting of another well. And I think that's what we really need to nail down before we
Hmm.
make a decision on this is there a good site? And that's a question for Ty and Bond.
Gillian, I'm gonna have you, wait a sec, Dan, like, Okay.
I seem to remember when we had this conversation about the siting of a well, there's that the idea of having it on the neighbor's property, I believe this was from Ty and Bond, what they were saying was that it may not get approved because of the legalities of being a public water source and wetlands issues and that particular property. So I do have concerns about that we might not be able to get a well approved by DEP as part of our plan because of so many unknowns. And I don't know if there's a way that we can speed up that process of finding out more concrete answers about those unknowns. I guess, again, that's a question for Ty and Bond. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards this unpopular idea of a stopgap measure. And then a more permanent fix with a new well that we can take the time to really make it right.
So the
Dan
stop-
Leahy? Oh, sorry, Dan.
I just wanted to ask Gillian, the stopgap measure would be a filtration system costing $100,000 or so.
I know. That's, I mean, I don't like it, but I feel like we're stuck and I feel like we're running up against a deadline for time that, we could get fined, a bunch of money too, if we dig in our heels and say, nope, we're not going to do it. Never mind, the whole school still dealing with trying to have decent water to drink.
Okay, thank you.
Dan Leahy? You're muted. You're still on mute.
Sorry about that. I recall from the presentation that Ty and Bond representative got excited, kind of animated when he heard from the principal, I believe it was the principal of the elementary school, that a woman came to the site, and I think she was from DEP, and said that she would be willing to help locate a well on the property. So I just wanted to share that recollection with you, that there was I could tell a change in energy from this representative from Ty and Bond when he heard this person's name, was a female, I believe, and that she would be willing to help site a well or see if the conditions exist to place another well. And I didn't know if that was pro bono via the DEP or what the situation was, but I just wanted to share that recollection with you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm thinking I'd I wouldn't mind following up with the person who gave the presentation, which I'm thinking Rick or Rich, but I can't remember his name. And trying to get sort of a clearer idea of where this, finding this well site, how it fits in the whole process, what the time, how, quickly it might happen, what the cost might be just for that part of it.
Should
If we
see
can
if-
sort of, sorry, Glenn.
Should we see if you can come to the meeting next week? Just for the three of you to get to ask your questions while you're deliberating?
We could do that. I might still think about emailing him in the interim. 'Cause sometimes it's good to get all your things out in writing.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Do you think that if you all chose the well option, started on it, and I mean, maybe DEP would accept progress, like steps forward, and even if you weren't able to find a site and then had to change tack, you could. Am I understanding that? It just seems like mostly looking for signs of progress, or are they looking for, like, you must solve this problem as quickly as possible?
You're muted, Dan.
Sorry, I think they're looking for signs of progress. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's, so far they've been showing that. I'm not sure how long that would continue. So, okay. I think that's great. I think it'll be probably good to have the time bond person come to the meeting, and I'm happy to email any questions in the meantime. If anyone else has other questions, you can either let me know or probably just send them each our own. And Tim Newton actually asked to talk to me. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow, so I don't know what exactly he wants to talk about, but I can report back on that. And so, and the New Salem board will talk about this also at their meeting, probably on Monday. So actually, I know one of the things Tim wants to talk about is that he wants this to happen quickly. He thinks we need to get a consensus so that we can start quickly. So that's, I guess I worry a little bit about kicking things to the next meeting. I'm wondering if planning to go to the New Salem Select Board meeting might be something we should want to consider.
Probably a good idea.
We probably won't have a meeting on Monday because of Labor Day.
Oh, right.
Oh, right.
So when is it? How are we finding that out? I did think that's what they said, but maybe they just didn't realize. Oh, it's on the 6th. It's on Tuesday. Okay. So do we want, how many people want to go to that meeting? We want to post it as a meeting? Do we want to have a rep? I mean,
Are you thinking about proposing to have a joint meeting with them, or?
well, even if we don't necessarily have to make it a joint meeting, but if two of us want to just go, then we need to post it. Okay.
If you go and don't participate, because if you participate, then you have a quorum of deliberating about it. So then it becomes a joint meeting.
Lori, are you able to go to that meeting? Could you go as a representative? And then since you sort of are our task, our person for this discussion, communicating with,
Yeah, I think I can go.
and then you could bring back that information to help inform our decision. It feels like we need to make a decision next meeting. Possibly.
Oh, Dan, I think you're muted. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think if we're interested in really moving this along quickly, I could make that meeting on the 6th. And we could post it as select board meeting and make that decision then. Gillian, you can't make that meeting?
No, I can make it. I should be able to.
I would suggest we do that and make it a joint meeting and get it all resolved and move it along. If we
Need
could,
to be posted by tomorrow because of the holiday.
right. I can
We
do
could
posting
even,
necessary.
I know this is getting crazy, but we could even tell them that we have a meeting also the next night. And if, you know, we could post them both as joint meetings. So we have 2 opportunities to make our decision, just in case.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Leave all the
I mean,
options
they've
open.
already posted their meeting,
I think
so
we
I don't know how that
we
affects.
can post them separately. I mean, I don't remember.
Okay.
I do remember
Yeah.
in the past that that's just how we do it. We just post
Yeah,
separate meetings. I don't think it has to be one posting as a joint meeting,
right.
but we should let them know. Do you want to do that, Glenn, or do you want me to?
What if I send an email right now to Kathy asking about that? Or should I copy the select board as well?
Sure.
Sure.
All right, yeah, I'll get that out tonight. And CC you all, of course.
Okay.
And then Glenn, if that needs to be physically posted, if you're not able to do that, I could do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So that would be tomorrow.
Yeah. And yeah, would you, so would I email you the posting? Okay.
Yeah.
For you to
That'd be
bring
great.
over. Okay.
Yep.
I'll do that and you can post it. If it doesn't work out for them, we can take it down, you know.
Okay, I put it on my calendar.
Good idea. All right, anything more? Do we want to discuss on that tonight? All right. See what else we got. The wood bank is next.
Yeah. I've been looking at sites. I'm about halfway through my list. So can we kick this down the road till the next meeting?
Yes, and I don't know if this was also intended, there's sort of a side issue of getting rid of the wood that's already on 97 Wendell Depot, and whether or not we could move it somewhere else on that property and actually use that property for additional wood debris that Phil might have been going to talk to Tom Chasen about. So I don't know if we want that to be on a future agenda, but probably separated out from the wood bank. And I did double check, and that entire piece of property, 97 Wendell Depot, includes that little section that goes off to Farley Road. So none of that is the town's anymore. And it's just with the, you know, utility right of way that runs through it. I don't know how that, you know, is if that's important or not, but. So we can maybe check in with Phil on that for a future meeting as well.
Okay.
Okay, and the Borrego Energy Project, I would, unless somebody else has heard from the planning board, I don't know if we'll have anything new to discuss on that tonight, but let me know if anyone
Just
has heard
report
anything.
that I did reach out to Senator Comerford's office, and her aide, Jared, got right back to us and is in touch with the planning board. He also reached out to town council, and he was going to connect with Molly. So those two aspects are moving along.
Oh, awesome, thank you. That's very good. Okay, community compact grants are next.
I'm meeting with Sean from, help me, my brain's starting to get tired.
Collins Center.
Collins Center. And Doug around the possibility of an IT grant. Meeting with them on Friday. And hopefully the grant, the best practices grant, or, you know, what we just have been working on with the Collins Center this past year, some of that information can help inform. So it might help us with the next steps in terms of networking, maybe another firewall, cybersecurity, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to make you aware that we were starting to think about that. And if anybody has any questions or wants to be involved, or you just want me to report back after this meeting.
Just say, just put into the hopper of your considerations when we were looking at the hub, I guess, where all of the internet goes out to all the different rooms. It is at 100% capacity right now. So if we needed to add any more, we would be in trouble. So we might need to get another one that has more ports. So if and when we are looking at a grant, that's another item we might want to add to the list of things for the grant.
Glenn, do you mind just popping me off a quick little email just saying that, just so I don't lose it?
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's other community compact grants that we want to look at. I didn't get a chance to go through them all, but I was hoping on Friday to take a look at those. I'm sort of surprised that they're still around, so we should take advantage of them while we have them.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Okay, rules of procedure.
I'm happy to put that off till the next meeting and give
Okay.
everybody more time to review.
Someday, are we ever going to have a short meeting again?
I'm waiting.
Okay, and Wendell Code of Conduct.
Same thing.
Did you ever
Sure.
get something from Doug? He said he might have found, there might have been.
Yeah. So what is really interesting is that Wendell already has a code of conduct, but it's not really like made it into the handbook for new employees, committees, boards, you know, anything that they receive. And Anna didn't even have a copy of it. She couldn't find a copy of it in the town clerk's office. So I think we should review what we have. We don't need to redo it if we already have it, but review what we have, and then talk about how to put that into practice.
Good.
Sounds good. Do you have it to send out to us at this point? Or
Yeah.
have you sent it?
I could send, I honestly don't remember, but I will look it up and send it, which also reminds me, just, I'm going to say it right now. I'm actually trying to use a different email for all my select board stuff, and Glenn has changed it so that any email to the select board that I should receive is going to that new email address. So I'll be sending it from a new email address, but
Okay,
I don't even know if you'll notice that, but I'll find that and send it.
all right, awesome, thank you. The Fire chief home rule, I haven't really sent anything additional out on that, and I am thinking it might be good to talk with the Public Safety Committee about that before we come back to it. I think I'm gonna try to find as many examples as I can and see what Joe and the, fire department people that might have a preference, their thoughts on what if kind of language they might want in there. And then I'll do the same with the select board for a future meeting. Does that sound okay? Does everybody remember? Oh, you weren't here, Gillian. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm aware that I was here for a meeting where we discussed the fire chief home rule.
Oh, you
so
were,
that
okay.
that
good.
he could stay longer past his age.
Right, right.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, and our next agenda for next week's meeting must be posted this week.
That's right, by Friday. Let me see what we have generated in this meeting so far for. So do you want the tech role that Doug was proposing on the agenda for next week?
I think we're gonna wait on that because there's gonna be a meeting of a smaller group first, right?
Right, yep, that's right, okay. Yep, that's all I had from, oh, I know that the library has
Oh, yeah.
personnel related they want to bring to you.
Yeah.
So we'll- agenda, and then of course the Swift River Water, which is
Mhm.
potentially a joint meeting. So how should that be handled? Determination, will we start at 7 or we have met at 6 with them at times? It seems like, I mean, I wonder if you all want to have a process where you just stay on the Zoom until a decision is made or something at that point. I know that's how they pressure labor unions to come to agreements with each other. Sometimes they just exhaust people.
Well, I guess we'll have to check with them, but we might propose. So we wouldn't want to do it at 6 if we want to have it so that we can't end until we make a decision, right? We'd want to do it after our regular business.
Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, I don't know how this affects it, but they already have it posted on their agenda for a certain time. So I don't know that.
For Tuesday, but not for, I'm talking about for Wednesday,
Oh, we're talking about
7th.
doing another joint meeting on Wednesday.
One of the
At least
ideas
putting it
was-
on our agenda so that if we can't decide on Tuesday, we
Okay.
have it. It's back up and we can see if they want to do that and post it as a joint meeting for them as well.
And if you do it that way, yeah, I was thinking if you put it first on the agenda and then we'll have to do the library, but you could just really try to focus next week's meeting on anything that's absolutely urgent plus New Salem Water.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That sounds good. Because
So
I
the
don't
only-
think the library will take very long, like those things, you know.
Yeah, right. So I think maybe you would just do the library items not anticipated. That way, thing comes up that needs to be addressed, it can be, but I can't think of anything else that absolutely needs to be voted on next week.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
So then you could do the New Salem Water first, deliberate as long as you want, and then you just have the remaining items.
But the library, I would do the library first.
First.
You want to do
So
the
they
library
don't-
first?
Yes,
Yeah.
so they don't have to wait around without knowing what time it would
I'm not sure
happen.
they would need to come. Oh, I guess they did ask to come, and I told them 7:30, but I could change the time if it works out, have it at 7:15 or something like that.
That sounds good.
Sure.
Okay, so just regular start time, 7 o'clock, 7:15 library, and then Salem Water, then items not anticipated.
That sounds good. And we can, if there's any adjustments, we've got a couple of days.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on that? I think we can move on to the flag volunteer.
All right, I had talked with Paul Richards, who moved, and Harry Wilston, who have sort of been managing the flags on the poles in the center of town that typically go up for Memorial Day and come down after Labor Day, is what I've been told. And
Yep, that's right.
I asked how it worked, and they said, well, it's a volunteer position and we find somebody who's interested in doing it, but the volunteer is responsible for the cost of the flags and the posts. And so I found a volunteer, but I'm hesitant to put that on them in terms of the cost.
Of
And
course.
so I'm coming to us to ask about, and I put the question out to the finance committee too. I heard back from Doug. I didn't hear back from anybody else yet, but about like, is there a place that, there could be a little bit of money to help with the cost of replacement flags, just the, not huge poles, just the little poles that hold the flags on there or the
Yeah.
brackets. And I had asked Harry about like a, cost, and he said, well, depending on the year and how much they get worn or broken, like $200 to $500 a year. Doug thought he felt like that could come from general expenses under the, we'd want to look at a little more closely in term, like for town buildings and things. Or there's a line, but I don't know what it's for. Celebrations Memorial Day of $500.
Mhm.
Do we know what that's for?
That's for the same kind of thing. It's for
Mhm.
flags to celebrate Memorial Day. So that could come out of that. And also we could support it through the select board account.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
I think there's multiple places that we could fund that. Yeah.
Okay. So the person who has expressed interest that I approached is Danny Boyden. He's a newer resident in town. Used to be in Boy Scouts with my son. And I felt like it would be great to have a younger, newer resident in town get involved in a volunteer capacity. So if it's okay with you, I'll just talk to him about it and hook him up with Harry and Paul in terms of the details. And then I'll have him be in touch with us when there's costs associated with it and how to get reimbursed. Or
Yeah.
how to place an order through. That's one thing too. I could find out if there's a company that we deal with that we could place an order instead of having to pay out of pocket and get reimbursed. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, probably Carolyn would be the first person to talk to about that. She
Okay.
knows a good company maybe to deal with that.
Okay. All right.
But
That was,
Thanks, good.
Sounds good.
that was it.
Thank you.
It's nice to find volunteers, new volunteers.
Yes.
Right on.
Okay, I think we have at least one topic not reasonably anticipated.
Yeah, I have two for you. So the first is, maybe we can do this one. We need 2 more appointments for the Personnel Policy Review Committee. Doug Tanner, and I've been to my note on that, disappeared. I'll have to pull it up from Carolyn. I think it's Mara Bright.
And I was wondering, is there normally a select board person on that committee? I should have asked
I was
Carolyn.
Wondering the same thing.
I'm sure you would be welcome. I don't know why she. This is it.
Is that something you were interested in, Gillian? Yeah, same here. What about you,
Kind
Dan?
of, but I'm a little bit worried about the time commitment.
We have 2 meetings scheduled so far, and I think, I'm not sure if it's going to go beyond that. Thursday, the 8th from 5 to 8, Thursday, September 8th, 5 to 8 p.m. And then the September 22nd, 5 to 8 p.m.
I
With
guess we can
in
just show up.
person
We
at
don't have to be appointed.
town offices.
As long as there's one of us.
Right, right.
Mhm.
And
And Glenn, you're taking part in that, right? So you can always report back to us.
Certainly, if you have any changes to the personnel policy you would be interested in seeing made, let me know and I'd be happy to bring them.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay,
so I
so-
can, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so the appointments are for Mara Bright and Doug Tanner.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to appoint Mara Bright and Doug Tanner to the personnel
Policy Review Committee.
to that.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, and I sent you a town hall rental application. I clarified with the person, even though their address is not in Wendell, a member of their party is in Wendell. But then I realized that they're asking for Sunday the 13th, and good neighbors are in there. I talked to Joy, apparently they're in there through 3 p.m. So I'm not sure they'll even be able to use this space, but would love for you to vote on whether you would approve it if they can make it work with their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, the start time is 11 a.m. I don't know how in the world it would work with good neighbors.
I should have, I think I'm just still learning the job of being the town hall
Yeah.
rental coordinator. So I should have just been like, oh no, Sunday's not available, but I didn't. I did call her and apologized and let her know that. And I just, in case she's able to switch to Saturday or some other day would work, I would like to have along.
It seems like we need to know the day. Does that seem right? They'll prove it? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess I see your point, because in some ways you're relying on your coordinator to manage the calendar, and I didn't manage the calendar that well in this instance. So, but
Oh, I see. It would only be if you knew it was available.
yeah, I mean, otherwise, I'm not sure I would see. I mean, you all could deliberate, and if there's any reason you see why you wouldn't want to rent it out, but assuming that if they did want it on a time when the town hall was available, would you want to do that?
I guess I don't see any reason why not. We're not waiving any fees, right? Because it's private.
Right.
The only other thing I'm wondering is do we want to have them put down who the Wendell resident is? Since we do say we just rent to Wendell residents.
I think I got, I can tell you what she emailed back. Laura Botkin, who lives on Bear Mountain, is part of our chosen family for 40 years, and her PO box is in Irving, but she lives at 176 Old Farley Road.
Okay. Um, I guess I'd be okay to approve it on the, understanding that it would be a time when building was available.
Right, I
And
guess
I
with
think-
that, yeah,
Sounds okay to
Um,
me.
Okay. Oh, I can make that motion. Is that good
I'll
enough?
second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I,
Aye.
And they will have to, I think, separately talk to the kitchen coordinator / committee about the kitchen use, which I think was part of the email or the application. Josh?
You're not waiving the fee?
No, because it's a
Okay.
private event.
Yeah, they didn't request a waiver.
Thank you.
All right. Any other topics not reasonably anticipated? All right, well, I think we have to go into executive session. So I guess I make a motion that we go into executive session to comply with the provisions of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, generally privacy. And that we will not come back into open session afterwards.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
So, goodbye, Josh.
Bye, Josh.
thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
All right, will we stop recording?